defense. When the bank comes calling for the house because they haven't made their payments, and then they take the house and they say, oh, by the way, you still owe us $100,000. Then they'll raise it as an affirmative defense, saying, no, you owe me $100,000, so we'll just do an offset. It's called a set-off. So that's what you need to understand about the ability to repay rule. The safe harbor says, if they write a qualified mortgage, it's assumed they met the ATR, and they cannot sue them to this. So, how many big banks that are writing checks to the AG's offices in 50 different states, including the Attorney General of the United States, how many of them do you think are going to write an ATR loan and not a QM loan? I doubt there'll be a single big bank that will write it or accept it. I think that we'll find some small ones, some hard money for sure. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. But now that you understand that, ATR loans are not going to be something now. So what is a qualified mortgage? Again, it's that covered transaction provides for, these are all key words, regular, substantially equal periodic payments of principal and interest for a term of no more than 30. Now, under ATR, you go up to 40 years. Under qualified mortgage, you can only go 30 years, for which the total points and fees payable in connection with the loan do not exceed 3%, and for which the creditor underwrites the loan taking into consideration the monthly payment, including the mortgage-related obligation, the borrower's other debt, and the reasonably expected income, which cannot exceed a DTI of 43%. Now, raise your hand if you think that differs from ATR.
Oh, yeah.
Does, but this part right here sounds a lot the same. I'm left wondering, well, where's the safe harbor? But let's go to the next one. That's what it is. So step rates and adjustables are not excluded based on this definition. You'll still be able to see those. But the things that you cannot get because of the substantially equal payments that cannot result in an increase in the principal balance. So no negams. It cannot be a negam, or it will not qualify as a qualified mortgage. You'll never see another pick a pay. Because also in the definitions, you cannot allow them to have a choice. And it cannot result in a balloon payment. So those are gone too, under qualified mortgage. So based on what we just talked about, it's going to be really hard to find someone to write an ATR if you're looking for balloon loans. I'm not going to find it. Now let's talk about higher price QM. A higher price QM is a loan that's 1.5 points higher than the APOR. It's not going to get the safe harbor. It's going to get what we call a rebuttable presumption. It's presumed to meet ability to repay, but it doesn't get the safe harbor. So what you get now, so if you're writing a loan, and your loan is, if APOR is 5% and you're giving them a loan of 6.5, they're now higher price QM. We're going to come back to this. This is really important to understand, especially for self-employed, because they often get a little higher rate, don't they? So this is where the meat and potatoes of this QM rule are. Okay. Now, I don't know if any of you noticed any change when they went to, anybody know what the loan off LO comp rule or the loan originator compensation rule is? Does anybody know what that is?
There's like a cap on fees or something.
There's a cap on what a loan originator can make on any money that's directly tied to the loan itself, and that is 3%. Okay? Now, does anybody in here recently, say in the last 60 days, actually try to push it home because you were given a 4%? Does that happen here? Like I said, I'm in Vegas. That happens in Vegas. It happens a lot. When they want to sell a home quick, the selling agent will do a 4.2 instead of a 3.3. So, how would you like it if the government told you you can't give a 4.2? Would you like the government to tell you you can't make 4% on a home?
No.
So that's what they've told the loan originators. You cannot make 4%. You can only make 3%. So they told the originator you make 3%, but look what they told you can make overall. 3%. That's it. So if you pay your loan originator 3%, is there any room left?
No.
So what do you think the lenders have done?
Increase the rate?
They can increase the rate. And what does that do? We can go back to slider 2. And what does that do to the loan? It's now higher rate.
They can't qualify.
And now they've lost their QM. Now it's got the rebuttable presumption. The question is, will Wells Fargo write that? My guess is since they're now going to pay their agents like $1,500 flat rate on a loan, probably not. They're probably not going to risk it. Let me ask you something. If you had a $400,000 house, how hard would you work for a $1,500? Paul, I don't want any of you selling my house. But you get it. See, you understand. So you're going to drop your $400,000 house in Wells Fargo on a loan officer because your client says, he's my buddy, right? That's what he's going to make if he's working at a decent bank. If he's not, I have a friend who's a builder in southern Utah, and his buddy works for Sun Capital. He's making like $850 on a loan. I don't know how the guy feeds his family, right? But that's their answer to the 3% loan originator rule. Now maybe they saw this coming down the pipe, but 3%. What else is in there now becomes the question. Because how hard will your loan officer work to get your client a loan? It's almost can become your job to get them a loan. Because what's going to happen if you have one problem? If this is their patch, their stack of loans that day, applications, and you're missing a piece of paper, anything, and the one below it isn't, if not in the trash. Okay, so what goes in there? So what goes in the 3%? Loan originator compensation, which we just talked about. Finance charges, same thing that you're probably used to seeing under TILA. Real estate fees, these are any third-party charges which the creditor is going to require. Now, they can get out of that if they're reasonable, right? And no compensation is paid to the credit originator or an affiliated company. So, if you, I don't know if D.R. Horton is down here, if you're like D.R. Horton that owns the world, they own the mortgage company, they own the builder, they own the title company, and they also own the company that has the guy doing the appraisal. Right. So now, $500 appraisal fee, it's in the 3%. The entire title insurance policy is in the 3%, including the underwriter's fee. Even though the underwriter has nothing to do with the title company, right? It doesn't matter because it's being funneled through a title company that is owned by the builder.